Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted, the go-to podcast for those flipping the script and taking the unexpected path. I'm your host, Jessica Bergio, holistic life and business coach, author, speaker, and self-proclaimed high-energy hype girl. Each week, I'm bringing you inside. No gatekeeping here. I'll touch on proven holistic business strategies, powerful mindset shifts that have led my clients through massive transformations, and no BS conversation with industry leaders designed to help you get out of your own way to actively pursue a life of purpose. If you're ready to ditch the limitations at the door, hit follow and get ready to be activated to step boldly towards your big goals. Now let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome back to Unscripted, the podcast. It's your girl, Jess Bergio. I'm super excited for today's guest. You have no idea. As you all know, I started out in the beauty industry almost 25 years ago. I know no, I'm just kidding. But today is a really exciting time to have today's guest on, because if you've ever scrolled past a behind the chair clip and thought, damn, that shot's pretty clean, or how is this like salon vibing so hard, then you probably come across today's guest. He's the definition, I would say, of like West Coast cool meets like relentless work ethic. Yes, I did craft this in ChatGPT. This is my homie, Reagan. Welcome to the podcast. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to be here. This has been a long time in the making. I'm ready to get it cracking.
I know, right? So from cutting hair in your parents' garage as a teenager to now you're running one of San Diego's most sought after, I think, beautiful surf-inspired salons. Talk to us about how you got started in the industry, because I know your story's pretty cool.
Yeah, I got a pair of clippers when I was 14. It happened to be Christmas. It was a white elephant gift. I grabbed it, shook it. It made the most noise. So I figured, hey, this gift is probably for me. And from there, I started cutting hair out of my garage. I started out cutting my siblings' hair. And as you know, when you're first getting into the industry, you're cutting your siblings' hair. They are the guinea pigs. They are the walking mannequins. And what happens is you mess up a lot. But, over time, if you just keep going, you start to get better. I moved on from cutting their hair to cutting their friends' hair. And once their friends started getting haircuts, then their parents started coming in. And that's where it all started to unravel. And I began to actually think, like, is this something that could potentially line up for me? But truth be told, I actually deviated. I kind of got over the whole barbering scene, and I actually was looking at pursuing becoming a fireman. If you know anything about that, you got to interview well, you have to speak well, and those things I just didn't have a skill for. And so I slowly watched that dream diminish, and I ended up jumping right into beauty school, understanding that I think I was being called a different direction. So I went with that.
What a story. I think this is an episode, if you're tuning into, my shows are not all about what people are currently doing. It's a story behind how they got where they are and what is making them successful now. And so bringing on someone from like an industry that raised me, I truly understand like what that feels like, to want to do something different when we're super young, thinking that maybe the original choice of being a hairdresser or a barber wasn't it for you, like wasn't going to be the end all be all. Because I think like you and me, maybe I'll speak for both of us, it wasn't one of those careers where people are like, yeah, you're going to be a doctor, teacher, or lawyer. Like, so good for you. So proud of you. What a great career choice. It's kind of one of those things that even though you might be good at a skill set, people didn't really look at it as like a high level career back then. And how were you supposed to be well spoken at like that young age? Right? You're cutting hair in the garage. Same for me. And so it's so crazy, because if you guys are not in the beauty industry, which you're probably not, you're probably a creative or an entrepreneur, and everything in his story is probably something similar to one of our stories, right? Are getting started in something, thinking we're going to go down one path and then it leads you a different way. So your dreams are crushed. You're not going to be a firefighter after all. So you decided to go all in with the beauty industry. It sounds really similar to my story.
Yeah, I just jumped in. I wasn't looking back. I had no bridges. This was going to be it. 26 years old, baby on the way. I got to figure it out. I don't have a career. I've worked a lot of jobs, and I had to make a decision. So with the encouragement of my wife, she's like, hey, jump into this and just do it. Just see where it goes. But at least you have something you can fall back on. So I do that. I get through beauty school. There's no talent there. I'm just willing to work hard. And I get recruited to a 5-star salon spa, 10 salons throughout the entire state of Washington, and a very well-known brand called Jean Juarez, which I'm proud to say that I came from, because their training was like nothing else that I've ever been through. And it's nothing else like I've ever seen in the industry. They just have a way about operating. And I started there. I've had a lot of opportunities. I worked on Melinda Gates, Bill Gates' wife. I styled hair for the Seattle Seagulls, which are the cheerleaders for the Seahawks. And, I started off as a cut specialist, which primarily was because I didn't understand color coming out of beauty school. But if anyone goes to my page, they can probably see that that's what I'm most requested for. So, kind of a unique little situation there. But my color experience came in after I left Gene Juarez. I needed to expand my horizons on what I could do with this industry. I knew that I wanted to move out of Washington. Who knows where? I just know that if I took a skill wherever I was going, I was going to be able to prosper. So that led me to going to another salon that was able to teach me some foundational things about color. And then I just ran with it. And from then on, I've just been on the grind.
Yeah, you're someone who's definitely not afraid of trying things and creating in public and letting people see like the journey. And I think that's why, for one, for me, I connect with you so much because you are so willing to share the behind the scenes of it. You have a family, you're opening a new business, you started somewhere and rebuilt your clientele after moving from a different city, different state. Like you are like the epitome of what it looks like to make a decision, take action, follow through, get the reps in, maybe even fail a couple times. We're not always going to get the results that we immediately want. And like all of us who really want to excel in things, we're always going to be striving for the next thing. And I can see that in you. You just have that drive, that like relentless pursuit of I'm going to get this to the point of where I want it, to where I'm proud of myself. Yes, I love the validation from what's going on with either my clientele books being full or people on social giving me that validation. But what is it that really drives you? I know you have a family and I know you're super connected with them, but like, what is that thing that keeps you up at night or keeps you motivated?
Yeah, it's interesting because I just started working with a coach and we've been diving into some of this stuff. But, I would always take from my story of the past, and I've always been an underdog. It doesn't matter what it was, whether it was sports, whether it was academics. I always kind of, never really looked at it as the person that was going to have some level of success. And so, with that being said, I was really taking from that. And that was driving me with somewhat of a negative force, I would say. It was like, I need to prove this to people. I need to make sure that they know, like, and what I've worked through is realizing that that was more so hurting me on one side than the other. And so what I've done is I've been able to take from those experiences and really just channel my energy into what do I want for the world, right? What do I want for the people that I'm running into every day? Not just behind the chair, but at my gym, at the store. You especially knowing being a hairstylist, there's a lot of power behind it, right? You have the ability to make somebody feel amazing and you have the ability to make them feel not so amazing, if there's some kind of miscommunication in the appointment time. But I really had to look inward and decide, what do I want to be in the industry? Where do I want to take this? And, how do I want to make an impact?
So good. So when did you decide in the more recent, I guess 6 months to a year that it was time to seek mentorship? I know you had it when you were at the Jean Juarez salon. I was really fortunate to have mentorship back then when I didn't really realize that's what it was. But now people see coaches, online mentors, masterminds, programs, all these things. How did you decide it was time for you to invest in someone to help you get maybe to the next level? Or what was your thought process behind hiring somebody?
Yeah, it's such a unique situation. I used to work for somebody who is a dear friend of mine. Her name is Sherry Ballinger. She owns Belserman Salon, very good friend. And she's always been able to keep it real with me. And anytime we've had meetings, she's always, saw that I was going to, I was elevating, right? So I was always on a projection upward. And so she knows that I'm a person of growth. But at some point, as she mentioned in her own journey, is like you can hit a wall, not know it, not understand, what you need to change, where you need to go from there. But what she was able to do is recommend to me actually a coach that she's worked with for a long time. And I had recently sustained a chest injury that kind of put me in a dark place. And I was trying to figure it out. And I wasn't able to do all the things that I was pursuing at that time with all the momentum that I had. Everything just kind of came to a crashing halt. So it was at that time, out of nowhere, she just said, "Hey, I really think that it's time that you reach out to my coach. You guys have a conversation. If it works for you, cool. If it doesn't, no big deal." Man, I don't even think that she knew that I even was going through that industry or that injury or coming out of that dark place. She just happened to say, "Hey, something crossed my mind. I believe it's your angels. Reach out." And it's been great ever since. And I've been able to work through a lot of stuff. So it's been awesome.
Mm, that and I know Sherry, and she's literally a little angel in disguise, I think, and I think she's guided so many amazing people in our local industry to go on and be amazing leaders on their own. What was it like deciding to leave a salon that you did grow in? Because I know for a lot of people leaving an environment, and again, you guys, I've always tried to make this relatable to whatever situation you might be in, but sometimes it's hard to leave comfortable situations. How did you know you were ready to move on from that big salon?
That's a really good question. I kind of just hit a point where, the salon went through a transition. A lot of the people who I sought as leadership or people that were there before me had left, which kind of like just puts the people who are more senior up in a place of leadership. And, I was just feeling like I was at a point in time in my life where I was kind of hitting that lid, right? I feel like as we go through life, we go through these moments where we're gaining progress or we're pursuing something. And that growth of that chase is actually what's keeping us in the fight, right? In the fight to be great, in the fight to create, and so on and so forth. But when I was kind of hitting that lid, I was kind of feeling a little bit like I was kind of putting a little bit of a net around my wings. And I just knew at that time I have gotten everything I could and gave everything I could to the space that I was in at that moment. And I had to move forward. And, Sherry and I had a great conversation. And that was pretty much what kind of tipped the scale is I was just in a place of, I think I need to experience more and put myself in situations where they are a little scary. It's unforeign, it's foreign territory. And that kind of leads me to where I am today.
So good. I know it's hard to make decisions, but there's one thing I've always respected about anybody who owns a business, especially one where we do take so much time and effort to nurture the people that work with us. I know a lot of companies are built like that, but it's a different energy in the salon environment. Sometimes people aren't always so happy to see you leave, especially when they love you or they feel like they've invested a lot of time and energy in your growth. I know it can come from a good place, sometimes maybe not such a good place, but you were lucky enough to have the support of a leader who was like, "Yeah, go do your thing." And now a couple years later, she's the one helping you find the next, edge for your level up again because as we grow, there's always going to be new challenges we're faced with because you're not just a salon owner now, you're a second time dad. You guys just had another baby what like 5 minutes ago? Yeah, third time, 3 of them. Look at me, I'm behind. See on Instagram, you never know what's going on.
Yeah, third
Wow.
boy. We love family. What can we say? I come from a family where I have three siblings. My wife has five siblings.
Oh my
We love the
gosh.
camaraderie, and I feel like I've got something to pass on and push forward. And I want to give as much as I can to my kids, and make the memories and stuff like that. You know, right? You have a son as well, so
I do. I do, and I know how at times it can get a little difficult to, like, stay grounded in all that chaos. Like, how do you stay grounded? I know that you're a little water baby like me too. So, like, what is your grounding, like, rituals or principles to keep you sane so that you can keep up with the workload, the family load, keeping your shit together, like, all of that?
yeah. When you take on a responsibility of owning a salon, you are now stepping into a different role, right? So the things that you may have done before you cared for other people or cared for a space have to come secondary. So my whole philosophy is there balance? I mean, it depends on what your numbers look like, right? When you look at 100, your salon or your space, your career might be 50 of that, right? Then you have your kids, you have your wife, and then you have yourself, right? And as much as we'd like to try and put ourselves somewhere in the top ranks, which I do think at some points are important because you have to take care of yourself, your mental health, and make sure your cup is full if you're willing to pour out, then you have to go and do those things. But for me right now, my career is really big and my family understands how that needs to be operated, right? That is our place where we create, it's where we make money, it's where we impact people. And so what I do is I make sure that the time that I have with my family is very intentional, which means I'm off of my phone. If it's the weekends, as you know, as a business owner, you're working every single day, whether you're behind the chair or you're working on something social media wise, or you're coming up with a game plan or strategy for some promotions, you're working. So on a random Saturday, I might say, hey, like I'm going to go do my thing early morning. So when no one's up, it's not taking anyone else's time. And then following that, I'll say, okay, from, 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, it's family time. Let's put the phones away. Let's go to the beach, do whatever we want. And then what I'll do is I'll take a 2 hour increment and I'll create that for a social media post, branding, strategy, anything that I might need to work on, a Canva, You know how it goes. It's like we're constantly promoting, marketing, and doing all those things, which also take a level of intention. But if there's really some things that need to be done, then I'm typically breaking out my weekend days into 2 or 3 hour increments. And I'm spending time with the family. I'll go and work, spend time with the family, go and work, and then it's family time for the rest of the day.
I love that, yeah. It's really good to, like, I think, time block things out so that everybody knows what's going on. I think that's the biggest problem with, I think, any kind of business is there not being proper communication with what's expected time-wise, and I know your staff probably has access to you 24/7 if they really need it, but how do have you established boundaries when growing your team? Does everyone just feel like family now, or are there some work boundaries that differ from, like, home stuff? Because I think sometimes when people are building a business, it's just them at first, right? Right? You open your salon, you hope somebody's gonna come work with you. Maybe you then hire your first hire, whether it's an assistant or if we're online where it's a VA or it's someone in your space, and then you start to grow, and you have to become different versions of yourself and create different boundaries. How do you establish kind of your boundaries within your work environment?
Yeah, you know what I find? So this is my first time ever owning a salon, bringing in people. You know, it's an interesting dynamic because most of the time, everyone's kind of doing everything, right? So there's a lot of intentionality that has to go into this, but most importantly, there has to be a very strong line of communication, right? Because in a salon setting, different personalities, different ways of communication, there's a lot of things that go unsaid on both the side of the owner and the side of the workers, right? Everyone's trying to be mindful not to cross lines or hurt each other's feelings or whatever it might be. But, as long as the communication is open and people can come to each other and have a conversation and make sure that things are aligned, then all will be good. But I find that as it was my first time opening the salon, it was just like I flew my doors open and it was kind of like everyone do what you want to do. Let's create, let's have fun. And when there's no system or no organization to what's happening, things can just get a little bit out of hand. And then you have to bring everyone back to center, which to me is harder than just laying that fine line right away. I think that it's key to have those boundaries. But, my phone is always open. I'm willing to pick up phone calls, answering text messages. If somebody needs me or they want to grow, they want to expand, I'm open to the collaboration.
For sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of collaborations, who would be a dream person that you'd wanna collaborate with?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I know
Ooh,
you've gotten to do a lot of really cool stuff with really cool people, so maybe you've already hit a couple of your dream people that were on your board from back in the day.
yeah. I always think that it comes back down to brands. And I'm working with two brands right now. I work with Seven Hair Care and K18. But artist wise, I would love to collab with someone in Australia. Jay Edwards would be fun, or Boho Blonde would be fun. It's not something that's really on my radar right now, as I'm just like really focused in and dialing in like who is long hair swag,
Yep.
you know?
The personal brand. Let's dive into that. I think you've done a really incredible job, like, showcasing, like I said earlier, just, like, who you are as a person, and I think that speaks to the type of clientele that you bring in. How would you say that you showing up, creating that persona, which is you, online and sharing that, really sharing more than just, like, your pretty hair, you're sharing who you are and the type of person you wanna bring into the space. How has really putting yourself out there to build that personal brand paid you in dividends with attracting the right people into your business as far as co-stylists and getting you the right clients in your chair?
For sure. I guess where I'll start is I'll kind of go backwards a little bit because when I first moved here, I had no clientele. My whole focus was on building. And so what I had to do was I had to hit, I had to hit the streets and I had to talk to people out there and let it be known that I was a hairstylist. I'm in the area. This is what my work looks like. This is what I can do for you. And then I also had to go online. And as you know, being online, Instagram, TikTok, I mean, we have more platforms now than we ever have. So showing up can be, a bit intimidating. It can take a lot more time than it used to, but I'm leaning into keeping it authentic and not overdressing it. I feel like that's kind of where things are going with social media is people want to see the raw, they want to see the real, they want vulnerable. And so when it all comes down to it, showing up for me is really just doing just that. I mean, as cliche as it might sound or as surface as it might sound, it's waking up and making the decision to get in front of the camera, right? Sharing something, a piece of advice, something that's going to help someone through their day, something that somebody might need to hear. But for me, my biggest struggle is just that. So often because I get into my own head, and what I'll do is I'll question if what I'm going to put out there is valuable or what somebody might say. And those are the things right now that I'm personally working through, because we all have so much to share. It really just comes down to getting out there and doing it.
Absolutely. It's just making that decision to letting whatever you have be enough in that moment and, getting out of your own way. Because I think sometimes we cap ourselves with what we think people might want. And we're always like that perception of like, are they going to get what I'm trying to say? Or is this of value? And I think just being yourself authentically, at least from watching you, especially like you are as real as they come, and maybe that's taken time to craft to get comfortable with sharing online. I know when I started talking to the camera, when you're like, "Hello, nobody," you really had to envision, like, who is she? Who is he? Who is the person that I would love to help make them smile today or take something away that I might know that I'm feeling that would be helpful for them. And knowing that even just the littlest thing can be enough. I think that having this podcast has really helped me with that skill set because I don't know who downloads these episodes. When you see likes and comments on social media, you see actual profiles. Whereas with downloads, I have no idea who it is. I can't see that. I can only see numbers. And so it's taken a lot of practice to get out of that validation bubble that we are really lucky and fortunate to have in an industry like the beauty industry. We get instant validation with clients. 99.9% of the time, your clients come in happy, they leave happy, they want to pay you, they want to tip you, they want to pre-book, they want to tell their friends, they want to take selfies. Like I had no idea how good and juicy of like a connection I had with all of my clients. I mean, I knew it in there, but I didn't really have anything else to compare it to. And let me tell any of you who think that the grass is going to be greener going a different entrepreneurial route, if you are in the beauty industry, it's different. And it takes a lot of getting used to. But I think what's really cool is I'm leaving here after this conversation with you and going to speak at one of the Bellis Academy beauty schools today to new students. And I kind of threw out messages to all of my salon owner friends. Sherry was actually one of them. And I was like, what is something that you wish somebody would have told you in beauty school or advised you of that you would have actually been able to use later? Can you think of anything that when you were starting out, you wish somebody would have said to you or brought to your attention?
Oh, that's a good one. You know what? When I was graduating, which kind of actually transitions me into something that I've been working on that's in the development phase right now, is when I was working, education was, it was like you really had to go seek it out, right? In today's world, education is everywhere. You can go to Eventbrite, you can look up, someone that's holding a $200 class. For us at the time, it was like, okay, this person's popping on social media, right? First class I ever went to was Johnny Ramirez. I probably wasn't even making $1,000 a month, but at the time, his class was $1,000. But I knew if I had gone to that class, worked on it, and started branding myself as a lived-in artist in Washington, I was going to attract other clients, and that's exactly what happened. So, what I would say, if I was back in beauty school, what I would want is exactly what I'm creating right now. A little shameless plug here.
Yes,
I'm,
please.
I'm creating an education platform called DAP, Development Artist Performance. And the reason why this is being brought up is because in our industry, you have to be more than just skills. You need the personal development, you need the artistry in order to perform. And so this is coming about right now. We're in the building process. There's a couple of things that we need to solidify, but it's coming out. I've got some really cool things dropping, and I'm really putting a lot of my heart and a lot of my own personal experiences that help me to grow into it, into freebies, into a lot of things that a lot of people are going to be able to use.
So cool. I love that. I want to be a part of that. Get me in on that. I knew you've been alluding to that, but like you didn't give me the tea on it. I'm stoked for you. I'm glad we get to share that here with anybody listening. And I know that what's so different about the beauty industry is we feel so like I think alone on our journey. And what I learned when I started stepping out of rooms that were strictly to learn, say, a skill set, like I'm going to, Sherry's class, I'm going to learn blondie techniques today. I always used to understand the ROI. I'm paying $400 or $500 for this class. This is what I'm probably going to learn today. When you step into the business world and there's all these other types of businesses and people are learning things and sharing things and being strategically different in different ways, is what you did by paying that $1,000 to get into that proximity for one, right? Being around people who spend that kind of money to learn, right? You do something different. It shifts your mindset of who you think you are and puts you in a different game. So I remember local, I'm down the street from Allie. She owns Style Lounge. And she hosted a class with, I think it was, look at me, my brain. I can't remember who. Anyways, the class was $1,600. And this is when I was on the heels of like exiting, taking new clients. But I knew that my ideal client who was looking to make multiple six figures in the industry, who was still in the game, was going to be in that room. And so even though I had told myself I don't need another blondine extension class, I can always learn more. There's that, right? I'm always a forever student. But I knew I wanted the proximity to one, educators that were charging $1,600 for a day class to the people that were paying to be in that room. And so when you think about investments and when you think about your education, it should be something that is where you're spending a lot of time and energy and your money. Because I know for me, when I started going into other rooms, it was like they all shared knowledge of how they marketed, how they structured freebies or courses or built things. But I didn't ever feel like we had that early on in our industry. Now, like you said earlier, you can get a lot of that online. We see people offer business classes to us in the industry. People talk freely about how they're building stuff and platforms. But when I started out, that didn't exist. And so often we have to create the thing we wish existed. So I feel like you're totally doing the thing that you knew you needed, and even like several past versions of you probably needed. And this is starting out one thing, but it's going to grow into, I'm sure, something super amazing that you probably can't even quite see all the way yet because you're not in it all the way. I'm super stoked for you. That's awesome. What made you finally decide to be like, this has to happen and I'm the one that's gonna do it?
I mean, I was trying to do this in 2022, you know, and that's kind of the problem is I was just trying. I shot one education video and it was the worst experience I've ever had. I mean, I was looking to stop doing hair at that point. I was exhausted. I was literally teaching money piece placement, which I've been doing for a really long time. But speaking to the camera, I wasn't connecting. And I think part of that was the working environment that I was in at the moment. This is post Belserin working environment I was in at the moment, and also just my own security, right? It's like I didn't really quite do the work to line up with that. I was just like, let's shoot a video. And so a money piece placement took me 8 hours. I had a whole website built, never used it. So, you know, these are things that I paid for. But what I recognized in the moment was I was willing to go and do that thing I was afraid to do and pay for the things that I needed. So when I came back around to now owning my own salon, being in a different place mentally, I'm working out of my own space. It's really allowed for my mind to expand, and I've worked on myself along the way. And I think it's more so the timing, if anything, is lining up to roll this out.
I'm so excited for you, and that insight and that sharing of that story, I know so many people can relate to that because it's the same for so many people who wanna start podcasts. I tell everybody I have not changed my trailer on my podcast because it is the original reason why I started the Beauty Inspires Beauty podcast. It's awful. It's 20 minutes long. Your trailer is supposed to be like 3 minutes long, but I leave it up there. I could change it. I could totally get all those old episodes out. I could like make it look like that never happened. I could make you all believe I came out this perfect. But without the reps, and I think without showcasing, like, and documenting the process, that is what content is, guys, and it's, like, documenting instead of trying to create all the time, and sometimes the vision has to line up with the timing and the space, and you have to become sometimes the person you know you're meant to be in order to, like, do the thing. So I guarantee the timing's divine right now. This is gonna pop off. You got so much support in the industry. People wanna see you win, and don't be afraid to ask people to share your shit and for us to shout. I'm so glad I get to share it on the podcast. This is gonna drop in a little while, and I'm sure hopefully by then we'll have some more information, or you guys can just go follow him on social media and bug him for when this is gonna go live. And I remember thinking, like, stay in your lane as far as, like, industry leaders and people that you learn from, but I know that if you're helping people develop content, their personal brands, that anybody, not just industry people, would probably benefit from being in your world. So you guys go check him out. Follow him on Instagram. I enjoy watching you every day show up in your story, seeing your beautiful family, and just like the energy you bring. It always makes me happy. So if we can leave like a little parting word, I know we gave advice for the beauty school kids, but for any content creators who are just getting in their own way, you mentioned that sometimes you get in your own way. What would you say to them today in hopes that they would start showing up a little bit bigger?
Oh man, you've got a message. You know, you've got a message. Somebody needs to hear from you. Somebody needs to hear from you and maybe what I'm saying isn't reaching them, right? And that's what I think makes the world go round is there's people out there who speak to me, and there's people who speak and sometimes they may go over my head. But there's people out there that I do really resonate with. And that's what I want to be for other people out there is I want to be very highly relatable to the person next door who may struggle with curls like I did, right? Into developing, moving to another state, developing a clientele, opening a salon in such a short period of time. It's like never in my wildest dreams. I just believed the bigger picture. But that messaging is something that I could have used more of from somebody. And so that's the voice I want to be. And I think that's what you have to be. And that's why you need to show up.
I love it. You guys, if you love this episode, you know what to do. Either take a screenshot, share it on social media, tag us in your takeaways, or just send Reagan a DM. Let me know if this hit home and maybe what action you're going to take to show up a little bit bigger. And we'll be on the lookout for your new drop of your education platform. I'm super stoked for you. Thank you for coming on Unscripted the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
We'll see you guys on the next one.
Giving back is easy. Leave Unscripted your 5-star rating and written review. I appreciate your support more than I could ever put into words.